Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Our friend Susan, she said her head is swimming from the meds, so she's just listening. She got a sinus infection. She got some antibiotics and stuff like that. Nobody wants to get anything like that. You know, the last time I had a sinus infection, it was after I had gone and had some dental work done. And man, he must have gotten way up in there. Because I'm talking within like an hour or so, I thought something's going on. I'm actually talking like I just had a root canal. I was like, and I gave it till, this was on a Tuesday. I gave it till Thursday. And I went and I had to get a Z-Pack. It still took me like 2 weeks to get over that. It sucks. Good morning, B. Harley. Good morning, Kimberly Man. Kimberly Man. There's Angel P. Woo, we got a lot to unpack today. This whole thing with Nick Reiner, his parents, his siblings, gets more bizarre by the day. Don't even bother watching the Today Show because their shit makes no sense right now. What we're looking at is doctors on trial, medicine on trial, pharmacy on trial. There will not be any accountability for Nick. That's what we're looking for. And it sucks. Now, I mean, I do respect what Tracy Reiner said, that this is what her dad would have wanted. This is what her stepmom would have wanted. Oh, there's Peggy. Peggy, I've been waiting for you to come in. Peggy said it sounds like a psyops. Peggy left a comment after the last show, and she believes that Rob Reiner faked his own death. And I really want to hear all about this. Hey, anything's possible in Hollywood. I just can't get past the fact that Romy found her parents' bodies and made a 911 call. That's all I'm going to say. But Peggy, there's the link. Come on up because I would really like to discuss your theory. Remember, all opinions are welcome. Well, let's take a minute and tell everybody good morning. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Today is Festivus. Normally we say Taco Tuesday, but today is Festivus. Here we go. Lots of stuff going on. Virginia, Festivus tonight. Woo, time is flying. Good morning. What do you guys do for Festivus, if anything? Last year, we had Festivus with my middle son and my love chunk and my daughter-in-law. And we had a blast. I guess just me and OG will be doing Festivus this year. Our Festivus is going to be cleanliness. We got to clean the house. Peggy, did you get the link? I'll put it in here again. All right, while Peggy's getting the link, let's get to your comments from the last show. Okay. Marion said, looks and sounds like he has the dark triad with impulses not resisted. Ooh. Now, I don't know what that means, so someone's going to have to educate your friend Brooks. Suzanne said, check California law. A killer is not allowed to inherit from someone they killed. I dig it. I get what you're saying, Suzanne. We're not talking about a normal family, okay? His siblings are going to honor Rob and Michelle's wishes, and they are going to make sure through the inheritance, through the royalties, through everything that Nick is provided for. They have made that perfectly clear. Will he have access to money? I don't know. I don't know how they will set all that up. And he already has a huge inheritance, and that's from his grandfather, Carl Reiner. They can't take that away. B. Hurley says, glad your internet's working. Yeah, that sucked yesterday. Okay, Peggy, of course, mentioned that she thinks Rob Reiner faked his death. Still waiting on Peggy to grab the link. Jay, the Italian cookie, she says, I'm in Brentwood right now, and it just feels sad. Tragic for such a beautiful couple. Unfortunately, mental illness and drugs took this guy to commit such a heinous crime. The Reiners would have tried to save him, and they would still be in his corner if they were alive. If he didn't take their life, he would have taken someone else's, and they would be right beside him because they love him. I can't agree more with Jay the Italian cookie. Had he not taken their lives, he would have taken someone else's. Hence why I believe, even with bodyguards, security, and one of the most high-profile neighborhoods in the world, many people were very scared. Page 6, New York Times. Page 6, New York Times said that people were prepared. They were ready. They had the phones out. They had their thumb on the 9, getting ready to hit the 1-1. Conan O'Brien said, no, don't do it. Rob Reiner was having a meltdown. He said no, because they will make Nick go inpatient, and he's not ready for that. That's what he said. All right, so let's get to it. This is what was leaked to TMZ. No way did they dig this up on their own. This was leaked by Nick's defense. And this won't even be one of those, in my opinion only. You're just not going to convince me otherwise. Ooh, Christina. She said, there's no mental illness here. Schizophrenia was the best money could buy. Whoa. Woo. Woo.
Documentary for Fox Network on Nick Reiner's case. And got to tell you, this schizophrenia diagnosis, by the way, he didn't just develop schizophrenia. He has had schizophrenia for years, we're told. And the diagnosis.
Okay, this is important to know because, of course, when you jump right into the comments, many people were saying you don't just get diagnosed with schizophrenia at 32. Supposedly, he was diagnosed in his late teens, but they had just recently started changing up his medications. Now, we know from the last show, Rob Reiner, may he rest in peace, made it clear that he knows his son better than anybody that just has a diploma on the wall or a degree on the desk. That's what he said. So Nick has been diagnosed with schizophrenia for a long time. I would like to know, considering the cocktail of legal prescriptions Nick was on, how do they act when you put illegal things in your body? I mean, how does that work? You have legal substances from the pharmacy, then you have illegal substances from your street corner pharmacist. Sounds like a recipe for murder to me.
Of that is going to be so important in this case. And part of it has to do with the way the mental health system works. So somebody who has schizophrenia often self-medicates, and Nick clearly did that, from heroin to cocaine to various stimulants, all sorts
Fentanyl.
of things. What happens is that somebody gets diagnosed with schizophrenia, but they self-medicate and they become a drug addict. And then in these rehab facilities, and he went to 18 of them, what they end up doing is they end up treating the addiction to the drugs and not dealing with, ignoring, or not even understanding the underlying schizophrenia, the underlying mental illness.
All right. And this is really, really important. Okay. Now, I'm not calling Nana out. Nana rocks. Well, Nana rocks. She's awesome. She said, my son is diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. I've never heard of such a thing. And by the way, Nana is an amazing person. N was called as having Asperger's before that was absorbed into another diagnosis. He is inpatient treatment now at 24 years old. He never abused substances. So you're getting him the help that he needs, and you're listening to the professionals. I say good on Nana. Can we have a round of applause for people that do the right thing? We love you, Nana. Nana said, I love this family and feel like I can tell you all this hard thing. You're not making excuses. You're getting your son help. And I have a feeling that is a lot harder than ignoring it, which, not victim blaming, that is what happened in this circumstance. Okay?
So the person gets clean, goes out, has the underlying disease untreated, and then they go back.
Hold on. Peggy's fucking with me. Peggy, I already told you that the hotel surveillance footage, just like I said to Daisy, is being saved for evidence. Okay? Now, you don't need to see it. That is going to be shown to the jury. It's part of the timeline of the crime, baby. Okay? So quit worrying about the hotel surveillance. If you want to, call the hotel yourself. Ask for your own copy. They might sell it to you. Hell, they might autograph it. I don't know.
Has the underlying disease untreated, and then they go back to their old habits to self-medicate. That's when it becomes this revolving door. And that's what happened to Nick Reiner. He was treated for addiction over and over and over. But the schizophrenia largely went untreated. And when it did get treated, what happens is that there's a whole community that is dealing with the way doctors treat mental illness like schizophrenia.
Okay, what you're listening to is what has been leaked from Alan Jackson, the attorney, not Alan Jackson, the country singer. What you're listening to is going to be very close to what you're going to hear in opening arguments.
So what they do is they'll give you a drugs, and those drugs have side effects. And then if they end up in rehab or with another doctor, or even with the same doctor that prescribed the drugs, they will look at the side effects not as a side effect to the drugs, but something organic to the schizophrenia. So they're looking at a side effect saying this is connected to their problem with schizophrenia, and not realizing it's really related to the medication. And it becomes this snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And
listen, he should have been committed. He committed a double murder, capital murder of his parents. That's what he did. Blame it on anything you want. The probable cause affidavit speaks for itself. The articles of evidence that are going to be coming out in March are going to make Peggy shit the bed, since Peggy doesn't believe any of this. Peggy, are you still there? Peggy, making sure you're listening to all this.
they end up not getting the treatment they need to right themselves, to stabilize themselves. So all of this becomes such a problem. And then on top of everything else, I interviewed a psychiatrist who said that there are 400 rehab centers in Los Angeles. He refers to 4 of them. He will make referrals to 4 of them. 1%. And why? Well, when you look at the ones that are $70,000 a month, what are they offering? They're offering, luxury treatments. They're offering swimming pools and camping and scenic views.
And he is being 100% factual and true. One of the rehabs that Nick went to was $1.2 million. It was like going to Boy Scout camp, okay? Because they didn't want to put him somewhere, and I'm saying this in air quotes, that would be scary. Again, we're not victim blaming, we're putting out the facts, okay? Jinbug said, I understand his illness, but he also went to the store, he bought beer, took a shower, changed clothes, got a candy bar, knew his surroundings because he got freaked out because there was police in the store. You're exactly right. Exactly right. You go swimming and you go on some nature walk in Arizona, that's really not going to put you on the right path. It's just not going to.
What are they offering? They're offering, luxury treatments. They're offering swimming pools and camping and scenic views. And what a lot of people are saying in the mental health field is none of that matters. And it actually can hurt because rehab is not meant to be soft. It needs to be a hard experience to confront a lot of things that are more than uncomfortable. And there are a lot of doctors in the healthcare industry who think that, number one, no place should be charging that kind of money. And number two, the places that are and are trying to justify it with luxury are not the places you want to be. Nick went to several of those places at the very least. And I will tell you that in doing our documentary, there are people who are saying that it actually can hurt people if they have a lot of money where they can send a loved one to a place that is trying to make people feel good and comfortable, because that's not the point of rehab. The point of rehab is to stabilize somebody. And for mental illness, as I've been told from people we're talking to, good luck trying to deal with that in 30 days.
Well, he had a lot longer stint than 30 days. Thank you, No. Loving your comments, and B. Hartley is all over it. Y'all are lit up like a firecracker today. And remember, nobody is judging anybody that has an addiction issue. Nobody's judging anyone whose family has an addiction issue. I agree 100% with Dr. Drew. I was talking to Angel P about this morning because I wanted her opinion on what Dr. Drew said. Well, I watched it last night. I'm not exactly sure when his interview came out. Thank you, No. So Dr. Drew explained that a cheapy rehab is just as good, if not better, when followed up with sober living house long term. He also said it needs to be bare bones. And when you refuse, enable, or in some cases entitle someone to continue destructive behaviors, someone's going to die. Someone's going to die. He said when someone goes to rehab, it's basically like tearing down a house and rebuilding it. He said you want bare bones. It is not supposed to be fun. It is not supposed to be comfortable. And Dr. Drew, he's talking like freaking plastic chairs and watching VCR tapes from the 80s type of shit. Because he said nobody changes when they're comfortable.
Feel good and comfortable, because that's not the point of rehab. The point of rehab is to stabilize somebody. And for mental illness, as I've been told from people we're talking to, good luck trying to deal with that in 30 days. This is not a 30-day quick solution. So add up all those things. Add up the diagnosis, add up the side effects to drugs, and mistaking the side effects for the disease itself. Add up the fact that people self-medicate, and then they go to rehab that treats them for the addiction and never deals with the underlying problem. Add in the fact that there are charlatans out there in the rehab community, and that some of these places that charge a king's ransom are doing the addict and the mentally ill no favors. So I get back to what, based on what I'm hearing, is almost certainly going to be Nick's defense, not guilty by reason of insanity. And there are a lot of witnesses to put up on the stand who could well resonate with this jury.
Not guilty by reason of insanity is what TMZ is saying. That's what they're thinking the defense is going to be. I'm going to say they're going to start filing civil suits. Okay? That's what I think Alan Jackson's going to do. He's already mentioned something called black box warnings. Okay? I don't know what that means. I don't think I've ever seen a black box warning. They're going to go after manufacturers. They're going to go after these doctors. They're going to go after everybody except for Conan O'Brien and Bill Hader and Billy Crystal. And then from there, they're going to present their case to the jury. By reason of insanity, even in California, is hard to get done. But this is going to be a blame game. Blame, blame, blame. Everybody knows your name. Who I feel bad for, well, besides all of them, but the sister Romy, because I think she went through a lot with her brother. And I mean a lot. She's got to have so much resentment for the entire situation because she already knew how coddled Nick was. Then you have Jake, who used to be a news reporter in Houston, I believe, trying to make a legit living. So on one hand, it's like you've got Nick that walks into a party that he wasn't supposed to be at and nobody wanted him there. And he's getting in people's faces going, "Are you famous? Are you famous? Are you famous? My dad's famous. My dad's famous." And was freaking people out. He was freaking people out. Now, I'm never going to dog on anyone's defense. I'm going to roll my eyes. Everyone's entitled to a defense. What I would like to see is accountability for a double murder. And the conspiracy theories don't seem to be accountability to me. All right. What all did Roman know?
Behind the gates of a wealthy Brentwood home, a family tragedy that few saw coming. And some now say one person feared all along. New reports claim Hollywood director Rob Reiner's daughter, Romy Reiner, lived in fear of her own brother for years, long before the night her parents were found dead. What insiders are now revealing paints a chilling picture of tension, fear, and warning signs that may have gone unnoticed.
She made it clear she was scared of her own brother. She was outside on the phone after 911 was called. She called Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal called Larry David. Larry David comes running down the block. Didn't even drive. Panicked and shit. Saying, Where is Nick? That is the first thing Larry David said. Where is Nick?
According to a source who spoke with the Daily Mail, Romy Reiner's fear of her older brother Nick allegedly began when she was still a child. The insider claims Nick's behavior was unpredictable, marked by sudden outbursts that seemed to come out of nowhere. Even before his struggles with addiction, the source alleges his anger was frightening enough that Romy tried to stay out of his way whenever possible. That fear, the source claims, never fully went away. When Nick moved into the guest house on his parents' property, Romy reportedly believed it was a bad idea. The insider says she didn't even like the thought of Nick living across the street from her, let alone steps away. But Rob and Michelle Reiner allegedly believed keeping Nick close would allow them to monitor him, offer stability, and keep a roof over his head. The source claims Romy wasn't alone in her concerns. Her older brother Jake reportedly shared similar fears, and insiders say the two siblings leaned on each other emotionally. According to the report, Romy confided in Jake when she didn't want to burden their parents. Both reportedly formed a quiet alliance rooted in fear and uncertainty. Now, the insider says both siblings are numb, struggling to process the devastating loss of their parents. It was earlier reported that the family dynamics surrounding the shocking deaths of Rob Reiner and his photographer wife, Michelle Reiner, were unsettling.
Christina said Harvey Weinstein was represented by Alan Jackson. You want to hear something weird about that? Ange and I were talking about this. Hey, good morning, Turkey Creek. You lost your membership. What the hell happened? We were talking about that because I love that movie, Sling Blade. And I'm like, how come you can't stream it? How come you can't buy it on Prime? Or why is it never on Netflix? Because it was distributed by Miramax. And when Billy Bob Thornton found out, by the way, this is way off topic. When he found out about Harvey Weinstein, he pulled the movie altogether because he didn't want that company to make one more dime off the movie. Now, I think they go to court in 2027 to get all the rights pulled from Miramax because he doesn't want to do anything that will profit what happened at Miramax. Hey, got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
Reports painted a picture of long simmering tension, heartbreak, and turmoil inside the Reiner household, long before the fatal stabbings that stunned Hollywood. According to a report from Us Weekly, the couple's 32-year-old son Nick allegedly had a hostile and volatile relationship with his siblings and parents for years. A source told the outlet that Nick always had a strained dynamic with the entire family, including his brother Jake and sister Romy. The report cited a source who claimed that Romy had been particularly affected by Nick's behavior over the years. According to the report, she was extremely close to her parents, and watching their ongoing struggle with Nick took a heavy emotional toll on her, leaving her traumatized. But despite everything, sources in latest reports insist Romy never turned her back on her brother. She reportedly referred to Nick as her best friend and tried to help whenever her parents felt overwhelmed. According to the insider, Romy and Jake stepped in repeatedly, attempting to support Nick during his struggles.
I have read this over and over and over, how these two siblings, Romy and Jake, were, for one, they have a very tight bond, but that they were scared of Nick. I go back to when Larry David showed up at the Brentwood mansion, and the first thing he said, "Where the fuck is Nick?" And he was furious. Where the F is Nick?
Even as fear lingered beneath the surface. On December 14th, that fear allegedly turned into unimaginable horror. Insiders told the New York Post that Romy was the one who discovered her parents' bodies inside their Brentwood home. According to reports, she immediately told officers that her brother Nick should be considered a person of interest. Authorities later arrested Nick in connection with the killings. Nick Reiner, who reportedly has a history of substance abuse and prior violent incidents, now faces 2 counts of first-degree murder. He is scheduled to be arraigned on January 7th. Police have not released full details of the investigation, and Nick has not entered a plea.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly, but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process, you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
Nick Reiner, who was accused of killing his parents, actor-director Rob Reiner, and photographer-producer Michelle Singer Reiner. These charges will be 2 counts of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of multiple murders. He also faces a special allegation.
Woo! Woo! Christina, I'm going to leave that on the screen for everyone to answer. Not even going to do an official poll. What does Nick deserve? Ooh. I'd say in about 20 years, a stretcher and a needle, but that's just my opinion. Let's answer Christina's question. What is your answer? What do you think Nick deserves for allegedly, which is more than alleged now, because it's not being denied by his own attorney, he killed his parents. What does he deserve? I see a lot of DP, or life without parole. It seems all those comfy rehabs didn't work out good for him. Time to try it the hard way. How about that? Try it the hard way. What Dr. Drew said, bare bones. There you go. Put him in San Quentin. Enjoy, buddy. No one there is going to entertain you the way they tried to at Conan O'Brien's party.
That he personally used a dangerous and deadly weapon, that being a knife. These charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. No decision at this point has been made with respect to the death penalty. We have requested, and currently Nick Reiner is being held without bail. So special circumstances is a situation where one of the enumerated factors that lead to elevating in some ways a first-degree murder case to a special circumstance first-degree murder case occurs. One of those special circumstances is called multiple murders. Here we have 2, and it qualifies under the definition of multiple murders to allege the special circumstance in this particular case.
He was arrested in a public area, in the Exposition Park area near the University of Southern California campus. He was approached by the officers and he was arrested without incident. There were no indications that there was no indication that he was going to resist or anything like that. He didn't flee or anything like that. He was taken into custody without issue, and he was transported to our police headquarters facility.
Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found 2 deceased adults, a male and a female. Through the night, working with the coroner's office, they were able to identify them definitively as Rob and Michelle Reiner. We have our robbery homicide division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail.
Okay, we know there's no bail now. Peggy said she's going to wait till she sees the hotel footage. Peggy, I'm trying to understand your obsession with the hotel footage. Obviously, this was a very bloody crime scene. Why is that the nail in the coffin for you, that you have to see this hotel footage? Or the pictures from the hotel room of blood in the drain, blood in the bathroom, blood around, blood, they say, all over the room. I mean, why is that important? I'm very curious to know. Nana said Nick and Stefan will be homies soon. She said, no, I'm gonna bet Nick is going to be sentenced to treatment at a secure facility at Napa State Hospital, Napa, California. I think you're on the right track. Now, the Reiners do not at all want, none of them agree with the death penalty. So I have a feeling you're not even going to hear that word. I'm just hoping for life without parole. But since Romy, it's been talked about how her and her brother Jake knew all about Nick. They were scared of Nick. They were scared for their parents. They didn't want to be around Nick. Do they love their brother? Sure. Sure they do. Sure they do. But here's Nick trying to make a life of his own and a living of his own. He used to be a news anchor in Houston.
Jake's too new. My money's on Kathy.
Oh, and you gave away the theatrics, man.
I know you did. I was going to bring him in here, and it was going to be amazing.
Why you don't tell the news guys
so
stuff?
Rachel is going with me. Yep. Owen is going with Jake. Women versus men. This is target practice. And we're also going to introduce Dan because he is an NFL spokesperson and he is going to be our commentator today. Dan, what do you think?
That's right. I think Kathy has a shot, but I saw Jake warming up, and I don't know. Pretty good accuracy over here.
All right, I like this guy. You know what? I love being the underdog. You know, I'm the Falcons, and I'm going to win it. Here we go.
Ooh,
Dan, take it away.
All right. First up is Jake. Let's see his accuracy at the first stop here. All right, here we go. Oh, he got the lucky bounce. Kathy to even it up. Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
So we are tied at 1 here, going to the second round. Jake, you're right over here.
Dan's doing good play-by-play. Here we go, Snake.
Oh, Jake takes the lead, 2-1. A lot of pressure on Kathy. Oh,
Ooh,
ties
Kathy.
it up again. 2-2. Jake
All right,
at the
Snake.
last stop.
Concentrate, buddy. We need this, dude. We need this.
Oh, pressure's on. Pressure's on. Here we go, Kathy.
Come on.
Oh, I don't know. Are there any tie games?
Yes. Well, it's my live shot, so I'll just say I'm the winner. I'm just kidding. Here we go. We're going to see how many push-ups we can do.
Seriously?
Okay. Or you want to try this again? You want to do another one?
I want to. We have time?
Good time.
All right, Kathy,
you know what? Jake.
Here, let me take this. This is my life.
Bless him. Here he is, even with a famous last name, working his ass off. Okay? Brainworm said, where are we watching NFL stuff? I'm just showing the difference between Nick Reiner and his brother Jake. This is Jake on the screen. Johnny said, Brooks, the reason the people want to see the evidence, it's because it's the people's court. No, it's not the people's court. There's no Judge Wapner, Johnny. Did you take civics in 8th grade, Johnny? Hell, you and Peggy thinking today. Okay? You will get all the evidence when it goes to trial. You don't want to bias a jury, okay? You don't want to bias a jury. You don't want to put things out that are saved for the jury.
Got now. So, Kathy, if you can hit one of those deep ones, you win.
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa,
and if you miss it, I have to hit it. But if you hit it, you win. It's over. So one of the long ones there.
One and done. Tiebreaker.
Yeah, that one there.
You get the tiebreaker.
No, right back here. Put some heat on it, Kathy.
She needs to hit off the ladies'
So
tees.
mean out here.
And by heat, he means green
Yes.
sauce.
Here we go.
Go, Kathy.
Oh. All right, for the win.
close.
For the win, right here.
You got this, Snake. You got it, buddy. They got
Oh.
It actually hit the pole, guys, but I'm just gonna let it go.
So that's a big difference between Jake and Nick. That's Jake doing his job, throwing footballs on the channel in Houston, everything like that. Yeah, Broken Gothal decided to leave because two people have different opinions. Broken Gothal, come on, we don't get down like that. And no, there's no conspiracy theory. There's not anything like that. He has already admitted to doing it. There's no getting away with it.
We now know that as the legendary actor and filmmaker Rob Reiner struggled with his son Nick Reiner's drug and mental health problems, he leaned on another Hollywood legend for support and advice. Michael Douglas contended with his own son's addiction issues for years and says that he and Reiner bonded over identical feelings of anger.
I'm getting really tired of some of these comments that I read when they're like, oh, all those rich kids always get addicted. You ever seen a poor junkie? Come on. It's just a different social class. It doesn't discriminate.
Anger, despair, and frustration. I quote, what you can do as a parent and what you can't do. By all accounts, Reiner did everything possible to help Nick, including treatment at a reported cost of $70,000 a month. But schizophrenia on top of addiction may have been too much to handle for any family on any budget. It's reported that doctors were trying and failing to adjust Nick's meds for optimum results.
He didn't get nothing out of rehab except for swimmer's ear. He laid around in the hot tub and went swimming. He basically had everything that he had at his dad's guest house.
And they were still tweaking these meds a month before the murders. Separately, the Daily Mail is now reporting that Nick's younger sister, Romy, had been living in fear of her brother's outbursts for years. Romy was the individual who found her father's body. And she told the police that Nick should be a person of interest. Nick Reiner is due back in court for arraignment on January 7th, but given his mental health history, it's an open question whether he'll ever stand trial. I'm joined now by Chris Mahandi, a clinical police and forensic psychologist, and Mark Garagos, trial lawyer, my friend of show, host of every podcast, including Two Angry Men and Reasonable Doubt. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining me, Doc.
Mark Garagos is just pissed that he's not the defense attorney, okay? He is just pissed about it. That's all I mean. He is pissed. And you guys are really opening up in the chat. Look at this wonderful, beautiful Holly. She said, addiction didn't care that I was a middle-class soccer mom. Nope. Pam said, as a parent like the Reimers, it makes your life a living hell. Couldn't imagine. We know what Nana's going through. She said, these head meds are no joke. No joke. They're not. Good morning, Junebug. Good morning. Now, I'm going to put the link up because I would love to talk to Nana Rocks, anyone that wants to share their story, anything you want to do. I prefer you not get too personal because, well, it is YouTube. And get your opinion on what really should happen to Nick. Because I'm having a big, big problem swallowing this schizophrenia gone mad pill. Whew. You read my mind, Discus. She said, move over, Garagos. You're not that good. Yeah, buddy, you fucked up everything, didn't you? Yeah, go work on Scott Peterson's peel.
Come on, Nate. There are two very big questions at play here, right? Whether Nick is competent to stand trial and whether he's going to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, what we call NGI. Competence looks to whether Nick can appreciate the charges and understand and participate in his defense. And NGI looks to whether he knew right from wrong and could appreciate the nature of his conduct at the time the crime was committed. So what will doctors and experts be looking?
Hell, I could just do the show off your comments. B. Harley, you're exactly right. B. Harley said, no one's saying it's different, but it is different because somebody with money and access, that's the key word, they can get all of their demons supplied more often. That is a difference, okay?
At to see if Nick is, number one, competent or not to proceed to trial, and number two, whether he was not guilty by reason of insanity.
Well, those are two entirely different areas, as you've highlighted, and certainly the first issue is whether he can cooperate in his own defense, you know, with his defense lawyers, and that means, does he recognize that they're even lawyers? Sometimes people are so mentally ill that they can't see their lawyer for who he or she is and what they're trying to do, and they may see them as imposters or other kinds of things in severe cases. So the first threshold is for him to be assessed potentially. I'm sure his legal teams, you know, could be on top of that to determine that, have him assessed by psychiatrists, psychologists, people that are used to doing these kinds of evaluations to determine A, whether he does have a mental illness, and B, whether he is able to participate in a meaningful way in his defense. If he reaches that threshold at some point, which I expect, you know, short or long term, that often happens in most cases, then the next issue is going to be, you know, a different kind of evaluation where you're basically reconstructing, you know, what he was thinking about and how he was processing information at or around the time of the alleged offenses, meaning, you know, did he have a mental illness that is a qualifying mental disease or defect like schizophrenia, delusions, hallucinations, command hallucinations? And, you know, that's the first threshold. Is there a qualifying mental disease or defect? Mm-hmm. And then second, like you identified, did he even recognize that he was hurting a person, nature and quality, we call that, or that his actions were wrong, either legally or morally? Was he capable of making those kinds of distinguishing those things?
I understand it's good TV for News Nation. I understand it's good ratings for News Nation, or as some people say, clicks and views, clicks and views. He literally killed his parents. Does any of this matter? Does any of this matter? Angel P said, I want to know who was prescribing meds in an unsecured environment. Well, we're going to get to that. Because Rob and Michelle had a different, theory on how to treat what was going on with Nick. Hello, Chango.
And, you know, it's going to be very important, you know, how he presented the observations of others in that immediate time window. And those doctors will be looking at the time leading up to it, his history, things that he may have said, observations at time of arrest, as well as his conduct just afterwards as his treatment unfolds in the volumes of treatment records. So it's a investigative process that is going to be deep and thorough. There's going to be testing involved and all that kind of review.
So it's not just obviously what he says to the psychiatrist. It's also testing that is conducted. Mark, not guilty by reason of insanity.
He's dangerous. He's dangerous. It's a wonder somebody at the party wasn't killed. The way he was looming around and wandering around, he was about to kill somebody else. Yeah, go ahead. Let him out. I love the head petters that feel sorry for him. Let him out. Have him come live with you. Who in here would put Nick Reiner in their house and make him better? Who would open up their door and say, I've got a room for you, Nick. I'll fix you. Who would do it? He is a dangerous man. His sister knows it. His brother knows it. His half-sister Tracy knows it. His dad knew it. His mom knew it. Everybody at the party. Larry David obviously knew it because as soon as he got to the house, he screamed, where the fuck is Nick? So who wants to take care of him? Seems like the state of California is going to have to.
Is written all over this case, okay? So do you agree that Alan Jackson will pursue an insanity defense for Reiner? And how do you see this defense play out? I know it's early in terms of what we know about the evidence, but we do know a lot about his mental health.
I really think, and I've said this before, I can't imagine that Nick Reiner at this point is competent. If in fact that he committed the acts, that isn't the end of the story, obviously. It's got to be what is his mental state. My experience in these kinds of parasite cases and people who are suffering from schizophrenia is once you put them into Twin Towers, and all indications by him wearing that blanket outfit, as I call it, the bedspread outfit, is that he's being housed in the mental health wing of the Twin Towers in the LA County jail system. I would bet you that he's in a fog. He doesn't understand what is happening. He hasn't regained any kind of semblance of a baseline of rationality. And I'd be shocked if Alan thinks at this point, this early date, late December, that he's in a point where he's competent. And I think, secondly, NGI to me is written all over this. I'm just not so sure we're ever going to get there that quick. You know, there's a revolving door of when.
Since when you go to a behavioral addiction specialist, do they not test you to make sure you're not on any sort of street drugs before they prescribe? Corey said, I'd like to know what the parents thought of psychiatric meds because they would send him to drug rehab instead of a psychiatric hospital. They were actually, Rob Reiner's words, against all the above. All the above. So what kind of doctor did they get that didn't do a piss test as soon as Nick went in to get his medication, or do a follicle test, or do a blood test? Somebody knew. Somebody knew. I don't think this has anything to do with whatever pills he had for schizophrenia. Hell, that shit just knocks you out from what I read. It had to do with what he was getting from his street corner pharmacist.
If you declare a doubt as to competency, and it's up to the lawyer to do that first, that triggers a whole process. And then who knows, if he's declared incompetent, he goes to the mental health facility. They get him competent. Then he comes back to county jail. He disintegrates again. It's a revolving door I've seen in parasite cases like this that can go on for a decade.
And you and I both know Twin Towers. I've had clients' mental health decline in the Twin Towers. So it's like we don't know where this. And I think that's why the arraignment was continued to January to provide that opportunity to evaluate him. Dr. Mohanty, Nick got in an argument with his father, maybe both parents, but definitely his father, the night before at Conan O'Brien's holiday party. He then came to the family home, went to a Brentwood gas station, checked into a Santa Monica hotel, around 4 a.m. Later went to the USC area, miles away from the family home, and was in another gas station buying a drink. I mean, these are all deliberate acts, right? Couldn't these facts be used to counter a claim that this young man is of a completely sane mind and acted with deliberation, premeditation?
Well, the important part about the insanity defense is it is an affirmative defense. The burden of proof is upon the defense team to prove it, at a level of more likely than not. And, the prosecution will certainly identify behaviors that they think are inconsistent with it. But we don't know yet what he was thinking during those moments when he went to those places. What was, what he may have been doing, texting people, calling people. There's not enough information yet to make any kind of determination as to the meaning of that behavior. But certainly the argument will be, he's fleeing. That shows that he knows that he did something was wrong. He's putting distance between himself.
This is actually a really good question. Miss Diskets, was he in therapy at the time of the murder, right? He was under a doctor's care. So what would be the difference? Okay. It was reported by TMZ that he was taking Ritalin, which is for ADHD. Yes, I know how to use Google. He was taking something called Risperdal, and he was also taking Abilify. All right, so you have those three medications, which what I'm understanding could knock an elephant out. But for whatever reason, he was hopped up all the time. Does it matter? I don't know. Will it matter to a jury? Maybe, maybe not. Will they be able to trust him back out on the streets? Boy, I hope not. Because he's always going to have money. He's always going to have access to money. He's always going to have access to do what he wants to do. He'll get it one way or another. Okay? Hell, we know people that are like, they don't have time to work. They don't have time to pay bills. They don't have time to have a house. They don't have time to mow a yard. But boy, I'll tell you what, they got time to find their shit.
And so forth. But again, this is very premature to even come to any conclusions about the meaning of it just yet.
Mm-hmm. Mark, do you see a scenario by which this case never goes to trial because of the complexity of Reiner's mental health issue?
I absolutely do. I don't think, for everybody, I got into this argument with my podcast partner, Harvey, Two Angry Men. For every person who thinks this is going to be a quick trial, I would just tell you, sit back and wait, because I don't think it's going to be there. To your point about the Twin Towers, it's not just limited to Twin Towers in LA County. I've had the cases in San Diego and Orange County and Ventura. As soon as you bring the accused back to the holding facility, local holding facility, they inevitably, I've watched it so many times, somebody who was competent when they were being held comes down and just completely disintegrates when they're in the county jail. And you get this kind of endless cycle of competency, incompetent, and then they ship them back, and then 6 months or a year later they come back again after being declared competent. I've had judges who've actually gone so far in LA County as to order a Tascadero to transport them directly to their courtroom so that it doesn't happen and don't go to county jail.
Yeah, it's awful. And when people ask how a lawyer is paid, right? My response is none ya. none of your damn business, because that information is actually privileged and confidential. But of course, this, I understand this is a high profile case and this has been a big question, and if you're running low on compassion or having no experience with a loved one who struggles from mental illness, you just cannot wrap your head around how.
I'm running low on compassion. Can I be honest? Y'all want some breaking news? I'm running low on compassion because I don't think two people that did nothing for 32 years, except for love this man, deserve to be slaughtered. So yeah, I'm out of compassion for Nick. I am. Sorry, I am. I mean, you can find an expert on any corner of the internet that'll go and tell you that pedophilia is a mental illness and needs to be treated as such. Not me. Not me. I'm out of compassion.
Family can pay for a killer survivor's, legal bills. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that the family is paying Nick's legal bills? And what happens, though? What if they decide to cut him off at some point?
Well, look, the minute it came out that Alan had been retained, I predicted that the family was supportive. And sure enough, right on the heels of that, they issued a supportive statement. And there is nothing under the law that forecloses family members from supporting other family members. One of the things that I don't think, and you just alluded to it, that people don't quite understand is just the absolute pernicious nature of this schizophrenia. You mentioned in the package Michael Douglas and his son Cameron, and I represented Eric, Michael's younger brother, for many years. I watched the struggle that Kirk Douglas had with Eric before Eric passed away, and with their mother. I mean, it's awful. People don't understand. You don't not love your sibling. You may be in fear of them. You may get angry with them. You may want to just stuff them into a closet. But at the same time, it's an anguish, and you get drawn into it. It is it's an unbelievably difficult, emotionally exhausting experience.
Yeah, this is going to be very challenging. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and all the best in 2026.
Jess Vickery, what's up, girlfriend? She said he made their lives hell and then ended their lives. I'm done with him. Now we have a question. I want everyone to think about this, ponder on this. It's not as easy as it seems. How are you going to present this to a jury? Is it drugs? Is it mental illness? Or is it rich kid delinquent? What is it? What is your answer? What is it? Angel P said all of it. All of it. Well, Rob Reiner was never shy about talking about what was going on within his family. Then you hear people going, why didn't anybody do anything? Why didn't anybody do anything? Somebody should have stepped in. Oh my God, somebody should have done. They did. He went to rehab 18 times, dudes. Hell, he had private masseuses, yoga instructors. He didn't go without. He didn't go without. And I think part of his mental illness is that he couldn't be his dad. Okay? Ooh, Dee Dee. She believes that Nick exhibits the symptoms of antisocial personality disorder. Whoa. Whoa. Just said he knew what he did because he ran away and washed up. Yes, he did. Peggy, that's for you, even though you haven't seen the hotel security.
And increasingly pervasive addiction. In development, too, Reiner's next project is LBJ, an anticipated presidential portrait of Lyndon Baines Johnson. So we'll ask him how that's progressing. But first, I want to thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you, Alexander.
So you did watch The Open Mind with 2 Fs, or are you only familiar with 1 F?
I just know you. No, and your father.
And my grandfather.
Yeah.
So the LA Times had a very interesting take on your most recent picture, exorcising the drug demons from your family. It's a personal, heartfelt story. And I wanted you to just elaborate on this is to the core.
Yeah, well, we didn't set out to exercise anything. It turned out to be that. I mean, we entered into it as, creative people do, where you draw from your own experiences and try to, have it reflected somehow in your art in some way. And, this is not exactly my story with Nick, but it's certainly liberally taken from what we went through. But what we did find is that in going through the process, we did exercise some things. We were able to, certainly from my standpoint, I was able to understand a lot more of what Nick went through. And I think he started to understand a little bit more of what I went through. And it did bring us a lot closer together. And it was the most extraordinary creative experience I've ever had. I mean, I've never done anything quite this personal. We always take from your life, but this was a little bit closer to the bone than other things I had done.
What was your most fundamental misunderstanding of heroin?
Well, it's not about heroin as much as it is about drug abuse and why people use, whether it's alcohol or drugs or gambling or sex addiction, why people overuse something. And basically, it's all about self-medication. It's all about feeling bad about yourself, whether an emotional state that you're in, and finding something that will make you feel better. And in fact,
I agree with Dr. Drew with something that I heard that he said. He said, it's not that Nick didn't have help. It's not that help wasn't available for Nick. It wasn't that help was all around him. It's that Nick didn't want help. Nick liked heroin, you see? Nick liked meth. Nick liked cocaine. Nick liked those things. But Nick also knew how to play the game, so his resources weren't cut off. Very manipulative. Very manipulative. He did not want help. But he knew how to use his entire circle and puppeteer them to get what he wanted.
it does initially make you feel better. And then, of course, if you don't get to the root issues of what is causing that existential emotional pain, then you'll wind up feeling worse. So that's what I'm discovering. I mean, in going through this, it's not about, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, because there are a lot of different approaches towards addictions and overuse of drugs and alcohol. They talk about it as a disease. I personally don't think it's a disease. And this is why I say that. A disease, if there is no disease where, and the predominant treatment on.
Okay, I'm going to put the link down. I need some help with this conversation. Maybe Angel P has got some time, or one of you that know more about this. Rob Reiner is saying that he does not believe it's a disease. Okay? Doesn't believe it's a disease. He goes on to say, I don't know if it's in this interview or another one. He goes on to say that he feels like you can love anybody out of anything. Well, yeah. I mean, you can. You can. But sometimes love is tough. Tough. And that's the hardest love you can give to somebody. The thing is the state of California is going to use Rob's own words against what the defense is trying to do. There's not going to be any way of getting away from it. Well, who's knocking on my door? Who's knocking on my door? It's Angel Pete.
It's me. It's Ernest T.
What's up, girlfriend? Well, I'll tell you what, Pam's in here telling jokes.
She's got some good ones.
She's got some good ones today. Anna, she said, I think addiction is glamorized in Hollywood. You could not be more correct. You will see, I'm talking CBS This Morning, The Today Show, any of those shows you watch, somebody comes up and they're like, oh, I've been clean for like 6 whole hours. I'm seeing the world through sober eyes. And they all stand up and go, oh, you're so brave. You're so brave. You're so brave. But you see a bunch of people laying on the sidewalk with dirty needles around them, and they're just bums. All right. So what do you think about Rob saying that this is not a disease?
Well, you know me, I disagree with that because I worked in addiction for so many years. I've always felt like it was a disease because it's chronic, it's progressive, just like if somebody has some other medical problem. You do the same things over and over, which is the definition of insanity, and addiction will end in death if you don't get treated. Now, it's more than just getting detoxed off whatever substance you're taking. You have to change your friends, change your environment, That's why a lot of people go to sober living, because you're around people that are working for the same goals that you are. But listen, there's people that go in rehab all the time, sometimes to avoid a court thing. I had a lot of that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is nobody ever picks up a drug or a beer or a whiskey or whatever with the intention of being addicted to it. But you do develop a physical and psychological tolerance to these medications after you keep taking them. I'm not giving him any excuses, okay? I'm not giving him any excuses. I think he needs to be locked up for the rest of his life. I really don't care where he ends up. I really don't. But to me, I think that for some reason, Rob Reiner, I feel like, and I hate to speak bad about the dead, but I mean, I feel like that he kind of tried to take responsibility for his addiction for whatever reason.
He felt guilty. He had his own addiction, but he kicked it.
Mm-hmm. And so the problem is when you go into treatment, there's not anything. People can give you tools and people can give you resources. It's very easy to just go through the motions, okay? Which basically means you're getting detoxed and then they discharge you. Nowadays, insurance will pay. Of course, this is not an insurance issue. It'll pay for detox and then you're out, okay? When I used to work in the field back in the day, they had 30 days of inpatient treatment. That's really not enough. After inpatient, you need to go to some type of structured sober living. And I really hate to judge people because we don't know exactly what all went on in that house, okay? But if nothing else, that pastor, Rick Warren, struggled for years with his son, and he ended up unaliving himself. Yep. And if nothing else happens from this, because it is a high-profile person, I'm hoping that it sheds some light on how ridiculous our system is and how people need resources but can't get the resources. Now, just because you're rich and famous, you can get whatever you want to get. That doesn't mean it's going to work. Why is that? Because the person themselves has to carry the load. I don't think Nick wanted to get clean. Nope. I think that he wanted, his cake and ate it too.
Well, Dr. Drew had something on very interesting. I'm going to get all medical with you guys. Go ahead and call me Daisy, even though they're saying there's 7 levels of schizophrenia and she's dealt with all 7 levels, and this all comes from incest. I'm like, just shut up. But Dr. Drew shared this MRI. Okay, what you see on the left of your screen, now mind you, he's comparing it to meth. That is a normal person's brain. Whatever you want to call normal, that's someone that doesn't absorb these chemicals.
Yeah.
He's explaining on the right what it does to someone saying that does meth. It causes all kinds of cognitive.
Yes.
He said there's MRIs for alcohol, there's MRIs for cocaine, there's MRIs for all of them. But
right.
He, for whatever reason, he seems to think that Nick, with the way that he was crawling around like a damn spider monkey on Mountain Dew, was doing meth.
Right. And not only that, I think that he did have some psychosis, but I'm not so sure if it came from a mental illness or if it was drug induced. That's my thing. I don't have enough information. I think he did have some type of psychosis and rage. And I don't know if after the party, his parents were like, this is it, dude. You're going to rehab. You're getting the hell out. Whatever happened. I don't know what happened. I mean, nothing could have happened after the argument. I don't know. But I mean, the rumor, or even if it's true, that's going around that Rob said to his friends, I'm petrified of my son. I really think my son can hurt me. That just is very haunting. And I realize that a lot of people are not going to agree with what I said about addiction being a disease. But just from my professional training and the experiences that I've had, I do treat it as a disease. If it wasn't a disease, then why would people not just set it down and walk away?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, but this is a guy, he wasn't given a diagnosis of cancer, or he had to do this many rounds of chemo, or have cut off, or have radiation or anything. See, that doesn't make nobody thinks twice about that. They don't pick to have cancer. But when it comes to something like heroin, crack, cocaine, meth, all the things that he was into, it was total denial on all fronts.
Absolutely.
It seems like the only two that understood what was going on was Romy and Jake.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that they were desperate and perhaps in some type of denial about what was going on with their son. Now, a long time ago, back in the early days, people did not think of addiction as a disease. They were like, well, you just need to get right with God, or you just need to stop doing it. But what happens with the tolerance and the psychological and physical addiction, is that with some drugs, I mean, you actually, as you know, have heard and seen, everybody knows, you get sick. After a while, people take these drugs, not necessarily meth, but like heroin or something like that. They take it just so they won't be sick. A lot of those homeless people will tell you, I do it so I'm not sick. I don't even feel anything from it anymore.
Some people even say that they've ingested so many drugs they don't get high from them anymore. I don't see how that
exactly.
And I go back to the show that we had last week, where Nick said, you don't ever want to set me off. You don't ever want to set me off. And that actually, that made the hair on my arm stand up. I was like, whoa.
Exactly. And that told me who had the power in that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like everybody tiptoeing around Nick all the time. Loving somebody out of something. If that was the case, then he would have been okay. Sometimes love has to be tough love, where there's no more money, there's no more place to stay. You got to go to rehab. You got to let them go to jail. I mean, what if the law had come that night? They probably would have took him to jail. What if this? What if that? But the thing that I'm the most disturbed about is that if he was getting some type of medication, like a strong medication for his quote unquote schizophrenia, then that is not okay to do med adjustments with somebody that's volatile and impulsive on an outpatient basis. You know, kind of like what happened to Michael Jackson. There's a duty to warn. When you're a provider and you think that somebody is a danger to themselves or others, there is a duty to warn people. And perhaps because of the fame and the money, you know, they felt like, well, we can handle this ourselves. And I don't ever think that works. And I think it shows no matter how much money you have, no matter how much fame you have, no matter how many resources you have, addiction does not discriminate, as you've said before, and it can affect anybody. But the bottom line is, if Nick doesn't want to get better, then Nick's not going to get better. And I really don't think he wanted to.
Well, and I mean, I'm trying to figure out this, which I know nothing about it. I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor. I mean, these medications he was on, Risperidone.
Risperidone, yeah, that's the generic name for Risperidol. That's an old antipsychotic medication, which also causes weight gain. You've noticed his change in appearance.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when he was on that interview with his dad, I mean, it was so cringy and comfortable because, you know, he came across as being very socially awkward. His affect, you know, his facial presentation was not congruent with what he was talking about. So I did suspect there was something wrong with him just watching those videos before he ever started the drug use. But that's just me.
Then he was also taking Abilify and Ritalin. Now, I don't know anything about that combination of medication, but when you also pour other substances on top of it, it doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know why he was taking Ritalin at his age. I mean, some people do that when they go to college if they've had to take it, you know, in their younger years. But that seems like a really bad combination. I mean, you've got two different antipsychotics there, Abilify. Now, Abilify in small doses can be used just for mood stabilization, but it is classified as an antipsychotic. And Risperidol, especially, is an old school one, like Thorazine, and they cause a lot of physical side effects that are very uncomfortable to people, like weight gain and stuff like that. And I'm just even wondering, you know, like, okay, they had this doctor prescribing meds. Well, you know, one of the most common problems in mental health treatment is people don't want to take their meds, okay? They start taking their meds, they feel better, and then we're like, well, I don't need this anymore, okay? Not true. I don't even know if he was compliant with his meds. I'm suspecting with all his behaviors that regardless of what they were prescribing, I doubt he was taking it right.
You sound just like Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew said no, he was self-medicating. No one's going to stick that pill down his throat. And Dr. Drew also wanted to know why they denied him what's called cognitive therapy. I'm getting real deep, and I don't know about any of these things.
Well, you know, there's different types of therapy. Cognitive therapy focuses mainly on your ability to exercise good judgment, be able to have some insight into your behavior, stuff like that involves like your executive functioning in your brain, the way you make decisions, the way you judge things, your perception of things, that kind of thing. Yeah, this was a horrible situation to put anybody in.
Virginia, Ritalin and schizophrenia don't mix. Look at the Gary Hilton serial killer case.
She's right.
Ooh, that's a blast from the past. And that was, now, I mean, nobody got off on a free pass. There was accountability, but it was made clear that this is what rewired the brain in a way.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And then there's not like there's all these studies about, you know, if you take these psych meds and what happens if you're on drugs. I mean, you can just imagine just the drugs themselves will screw your brain up.
Well, I mean, if you have enough money, you can get whatever you want. I think the problem is the complacency when you know people are scared of this man. He's a boy, and they're saying it's not a disease and we're going to love him out of it. Now let's listen to more of Rob real quick.
Alcohol and drug abuse is an AA model. And for many people, it's very good and it works. Not for everybody, though. And the idea of using the prescription of AA as a way to cure disease or at least contain the disease, there's no doctor that would say, pray to God or, give yourself over to higher power. Now, you may believe in a higher power. And if you do, then AA, I think, works really well for you. If you don't, then there have to be other ways in which you can get at the root causes of why you're taking what you're taking. So in my opinion, it's the disease is the underlying issues that are making you take.
Retro, no one's saying that ADHD adults don't take it. We're talking about the combination with the other drugs, the Abilify, the street drugs, and the antipsychotic.
Drugs or alcohol or, like I say, gambling or doing anything in excess to where it just ruins your life. That to me is the mental issues is the disease part, and everybody's different. Why people do something, why they continually do something that may be destructive to them, I believe is individual to each person. And that's one of the things I learned, especially in my relationship to my son, that certain things would work for him and certain things not. Here's an interesting thing. As a director, what you learn in working with actors is some actors need to be coaxed. Some need to be you have to hold their hands, higher maintenance. Other actors like to be left alone and go on their own. And as a director, if you're already going to get the best performance out of them, you have to figure out what each person needs. It's the same on a much more complex and deeper level with a parent and a child. I have 3 children, and the way I treat one child may not work.
You have 4, Rob. You have 4. Don't forget Tracy that you and Penny Marshall adopted.
As well with another child. And so it's incumbent upon me as a parent to understand who my child is and what that child needs from me, and not to basically say he's got to fit or she's got to fit into some cookie cutter way of living their lives. And so that's what I learned more about this. And when you see the film, you can see that the father character in there is hell-bent.
Denying a higher power really offends me on a different level. You see, my higher power gets me out of bed. My higher power gets my husband down the road and back safely. My higher power has kept my children safe for years. These are things I cannot do on my own. So never deny a higher power. That is offensive to everyone, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I can just feel in this interview how he just feels like he's reaching out with such intensity and desperation. And it's like he was talking about the AA and NA. I'm really sorry, but no matter who you are, there is a tried and true formula that works for everybody, regardless of who you are. And it was his responsibility. He sounds like I'm responsible for determining what is best for my child in this situation. I feel like he thought he could fix him. I don't know.
Well, that's when you lean on your higher power. And sometimes your higher power will send you into the lion's den and say, you get out on your own.
Exactly.
On, doing what the experts tell him to do, which is, you got to toe the line, you've got to be strong, you got to be tough, you got to be tough love and all that stuff. And for some people, that does work. And for others, it doesn't. And so I basically threw myself into the hands of experts and not really, trusted my own instincts about what I needed to do. And that's the biggest thing I learned as a father. It made me, at this stage, hopefully a better father to my son than I was before.
What did you learn were those underlying circumstances?
Well,
for him,
you know, I'm not going to get into that specifically about Nick because, you know, that's his personal stuff. And, you know, he's dealing with that. And we all deal with our own, you know, personal issues. But the one thing
And Lizette, she said the 12-step program AA began as semi-religious. It's based on the book of Matthew. True story. It is based on the book of Matthew.
I can tell you is that it's different for everybody. There's not one thing that causes somebody to overuse a medication or alcohol, or it's an individual issue for each person.
And when we had Tom Frieden here, he's also a native of New York and familiar with the plight of drug abuse and the increasing sensitivity to Caucasians who were killing themselves.
The one thing that we can kind of...
Jana said the experts are not always correct. And I think we can tell in this case, they were not correct at all because Nick killed his parents.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. All the experts he had, it seems to be they all fell short. Or somebody just didn't pay attention to, as Alan Jackson said, the black box label. What do you think, Ange?
Well, you know, again, the 12-step program focuses on spirituality. And there are some people that, you know, they call it your higher power. But I just think that, again, I can see Nick saying, Dad, those things just don't work for me, manipulating, and him believing that. And the worst thing ever is for the addicted to control their recovery. They can't control that. That's why they're out of control.
And at this point, whether Alan Jackson wants to admit it or not, this is beyond addiction and schizophrenia. This is going to be a murder trial.
Mm-hmm.
And they will find the motive. They will find exactly why he did this. They will. There's going to be lots of data. There's going to be lots of geo-tracing. There's going to be lots of geo-fencing. There's going to be lots of text messages. There's going to be one person after another that's going to get up and say, he had an issue with this, this, and this. Hence why they have not even considered lowering the charge yet. Now, when they officially arraign him January 7th, I'll bet you $1 to a donut, it's still going to be murder one.
Well, he had the ability to flee the scene, check into the motel room. Putting the sheets up over the window sounds very paranoid to me. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
And then he left the hotel. When they caught him, he was headed to a place in town to get another fix.
Yep.
I mean.
Yep.
You know.
You got that right, sister. He knew what was going on. He was aware of his surroundings. These people saying that he can't remember and he blacked out. No.
I feel like it won't be the first time and it won't be the last, but what parent would actually think to themselves, God, my son's going to kill me? Now, seriously, you know what I'm saying? Like, you may have a child at home that's an adult child that needs your help and everything else. In this particular situation, I'm not talking about all different situations, but you know, the worst, I just think he manipulated his dad. And for whatever reason,
big time.
His dad felt like he had to carry some responsibility for what was going on with Nick, even though his other two kids and his other daughter with Penny Marshall, they didn't have any of these problems that we are aware of.
No, to the point that Penny Marshall did not respect her words, not mine, Rob and Michelle's parenting. And so when Tracy would go to visit, she had her own nanny go with her to make sure that she was parented a certain way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry I don't have that luxury, but Penny Marshall did. And
Right.
that's what happened. And people thought she was crazy at the time. Well, I think we know better now.
All agree upon is that this should not be criminalized. People who are suffering with emotional problems should not be punished for having those emotional problems. It starts to destigmatize the whole idea of mental health and drug issues and so on. So that's something we can all kind of agree on. And you see this on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats talking about reforming the criminal justice system to not incarcerate people who are being arrested for drug use, but finding other ways of helping them cope with the problems they have. If you see somebody who's hurt, who's injured, if somebody, can't walk and there's something wrong with their leg, you don't say, well, just get up and run. No, they can't. They need help in order to be able to run at some point. So that's I think the biggest part of it for me. That's what we've learned. That we need to.
I mean, I get what we have a few states doing this right now. They're tinkering with it. This this no bail reform. Listen, if someone is dangerous, they need to be in jail. They need to be away from society.
I agree.
They do.
Right. I do agree. I really do. And I mean, I can understand part of what he's saying, but then he kind of veers off course, Some of what he's saying I agree with, but some of it I don't. Because he's, again, acting like, or, appears to feel like it's his responsibility as the father to make sure that whatever's going on with his son, I mean, he's trying to pick up his addiction and fix it. And nobody can do that but Nick.
Nobody can do it but Nick. And when Nick doesn't want help, Nick's not going to get help. And, and for my husband, he takes this very, very, very personal because he knows what we personally went through to get his brother help. And, I mean, it just didn't work out that way. But again, my brother-in-law didn't want help.
To decriminalize this and make this so that we can, as a society, help people. Now, what you brought up was something really interesting. You said white people. And I believe that if this, what we call epidemic or whatever, had not infiltrated itself into white suburban communities, we wouldn't be talking about this. If it was just in ghetto neighborhoods or African American areas or Latino, it's because it's hit white suburban America that all of a sudden there's a lot of attention, and you see it in all of the campaigns.
Absolutely, it's true.
All the campaigns,
there was a racialized dimension to Ebola too, and Tom Frieden was able to reflect on that quite intelligently, having been in the trenches and now fighting this epidemic.
Right, but the question is, for me, what is causing this? What is causing the expansion of heroin, which is the one drug that's being, now you could say, they make the argument, well, prescription drugs are more expensive.
That's what he says.
Well,
he says the overprescription.
That's in terms of access to the drug. In other words, you can't get the prescription drugs, it's too expensive. So they're now producing cheap heroin. People can, but still, why do you want the heroin? Why do you want the prescription drugs? That's what we have to understand. Why do so many young people feel empty, feel emotionally bereft?
Okay, this is a great comment from Janaka. I just abbreviate it and say Jana. She said, no matter how emotional one is, you still know right from wrong.
Absolutely.
Nick knows killing his parents is wrong. He knows that. But he had such a deep resentment for the both of them, especially his father.
That exactly.
He's like, Pat Sajak.
A true schizophrenic, I would think, would have done something like this and then been sitting in the floor at the crime scene or another room in the house, just rocking back and forth. It's not like you do something like this and then you snap out of it, you know? Yeah, his behavior showed consciousness of guilt. The fact that he fled the scene, the fact that, you know, all of that.
He was coherent enough to get an Uber to go over to the hotel 4 miles away from him. I don't know who Corey Reiner is. Retro's talking about Corey Reiner. I don't know who Corey Reiner is. But he knows right from wrong. He knows butchering his parents is wrong. That's all there is to it. He knows. And he was humiliated at that party. Nobody at that party was going to play with him and say, oh, let's all make Nick feel better. They weren't going to do it. We're not going to do it. They were going to call 911 and get him the hell thrown out of there. They didn't care if Rob Reiner was there. They didn't care about that. They wanted Nick out. Okay? When Rob said no, they'll make him go inpatient. He's not ready for that. Conan O'Brien is the one that says, don't call the police. Don't call 911. It'll be taken care of. It'll be taken care of.
Right.
That they need to fill themselves up with these drugs. What is the cause of that?
Of the anxiety from the outset.
Yeah.
Because it's the anxiety that's leading them to the medicine cabinet.
Right.
And then that medicine cabinet is exhausted.
Right.
And then they go out on the street and they find heroin.
Right.
That's the cycle.
And so what is causing that? What is it? And that, I'm not a sociologist, so I can't answer that question.
You're a sociologist of the screen.
Yeah,
you might say.
There you go.
But I did find the film to be useful from the perspective to you come at this as a humorist, and there is the intertwining of romance and levity in the film to some extent.
Yeah.
How do you think that heart to heart we can exchange solutions in a way that is, like you said, destigmatizing the process?
Well, what we're doing here. I mean, the one thing that I always wanted to do was for it to be part of the dialogue. Now,
and we're sorry Nick can't be here because I really did want an intergenerational perspective.
Yeah.
And I want you to.
And he has a lot of ideas. A lot of his ideas are expressed in the film. You know, when the character, Charlie says, these programs don't work for me. You have to listen to your kids. I mean, a lot of times, the drugs are talking and stuff, and so they'll tell you, don't listen to them because they're more interested in the drugs. But you have to try to find your way through it and know who your kid really is, and say maybe they don't. Maybe you have to find another avenue. And listen, I'm not.
Isn't that why we go to doctors? To get an outside opinion? Because if what you're doing within your own four walls works, then you wouldn't need an outside influence. Isn't that why people go?
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, if I could treat a blood clot, I wouldn't have gone to the hospital.
Right.
You have to get somebody outside of your own knowledge and what goes on in your home. I mean, am I being crazy here?
No, you're not being crazy.
If you don't want their advice and you don't want their expertise and you don't want their professional opinion and you don't want to do what they say because you know better, then what was the point in the first place? $70,000 a month? 18 times. Do the math.
Well, here's a smaller example of that. Like my dad would go to the doctor for a problem and they would write a prescription and then he wouldn't get it filled. Okay. So you ask for help, but you don't want to do what the help has told you need to do. Did you find out if, does anybody know if Nick was ever in a treatment facility that Dr. Drew was working at?
No, Dr. Drew is only talking about this case because he never treated Nick.
Okay.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And I believe everything Dr. Drew says.
Right.
Not an expert. I don't know. I couldn't prescribe what people should do, but I certainly can be part of the dialogue, and that's what hopefully the film will be.
When I think of the classic films, When Harry Met Sally, and then the films that you acted in, that were also Efron productions, I think of the state of comedy then, and the state of romance being something tamer. Fair?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you look at what's
there weren't any needles that.
No, but if you.
Hey, Ange, how come Daisy keeps saying that Rob Reiner directed Die Hard? He didn't direct that movie.
Well, I don't know. She also says the earth is flat and we never went to the moon. So, honey, I can't explain that kind of crazy.
I don't know what she's talking about. He didn't direct Die Hard. I mean, I celebrate all his movies. I love Stand By Me. Misery's my favorite. A Few Good Men. When Sally, if I'm in the right mood. I don't know what she's talking about. Die Hard and shit. She's crazy. All the family. I support. I love the Norman Lear effect. She's crazy. She's damn crazy.
That Harry was giving Sally or vice versa.
No.
Right? You know?
But if you look at just generally the movies, you know, everything's been ratcheted up. The violence, the sex, language, all these things have been ratcheted up because people need more of whatever it is you're giving them. So yeah, something like When Harry Met Sally looks kind of tame compared to, the hangover,
orgies,
hangover, whatever the thing is, it's a little different. So yeah, things do get ratcheted up. But what I've tried to do, and with being Charlie, I tried to do the same thing, is there are some dark issues. It is dramatic, it is edgy, but it's also funny, and it can be all of those things. And there is a romantic element, albeit one that is fueled by drugs, but still. These are all things that kind of blend together in the real world, and so hopefully it reflects a lot of what goes on in the real.
Ratchet up is right, because this is messed up. This is messed up. Said, I bet Daddy was going to cut the money off. I bet that's what it is. Has nothing to do with drugs or anything. That might be part of the motive. I don't know. But let's see who agrees with Dr. Drew Pinsky when he speaks about this whole thing on Nick Reiner. Okay. He's aging gracefully, don't you think, Ange?
Absolutely. It's horrible. Women can't do that sometimes. It's just not fair.
No, the only woman I know that ages gracefully is Pat Kay. I mean, my God, she looks hot every birthday. Well,
absolutely.
And Laura does too, and B. Hurley and Sunshine Country. Hell, my husband's lost 22 pounds. He's about to trade me in for a younger model.
Uh-oh.
Damn. I tell OJ that all the time.
Could never anticipate something like this.
Dr. Drew Pinsky, the world-renowned addiction expert, is weighing in today on the question everyone is asking. Could Rob and Michelle Reiner have done more to save themselves?
Okay, this is going to hurt some feelings, but Dr. Drew is saying this was preventable. Dr. Drew is going to say they could have prevented all of this. They could have done way more. And he says the way more is to 100% cut him off. Not just money, but communication.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but I do agree with that.
Okay, just letting you know. These aren't easy topics we talk about.
Reiner have done more to save themselves. By all accounts, they tried everything to help their troubled son Nick, sending him to rehab 18 times. He lived in their guest house, but Dr. Drew says tough love may have been more effective.
The reality is, if they had allowed him to go in prison for drug use or for whatever he may have done in his disease, which people always break the law in that disease, for a few...
He said, you will always break the law in that disease. I think that's something we can all agree on.
Right.
Break the law in that disease.
You know, he's going to be at CrimeCon, Ange.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might have to fangirl him.
You'll have to steal Pat's badge to go see him, but she never took her badge away.
For a few years, where losing freedom gets people's attention. It gets them motivated to get sober many times. You could have spent a couple years there as opposed to...
He's got a cold, I think. He's got the same thing going on as Susan has.
Sober
well, I mean, what?
Times.
What motivation do you have to quit using if you're staying in your parents' guest house and everything's all warm and fuzzy? And I'm not trying to blame people. I mean, I've not been in these people's shoes. I don't know everything that they've done that we don't know about or anything else that's happened in this case. But I think Dr. Drew was right. When you're so comfortable, I mean, you know, you're living in the guest house. He didn't have a job, so he had his money from his parents, right? He's 30 something years old. What incentive is there to stop using?
What would be the incentive?
Right.
What would be the incentive?
You could have spent a couple years there as opposed to facing the death penalty or life in prison.
You know, we've heard a lot now about the Christmas party, you know, the night before. Knowing what we know, do you think it was safe for Nick Reiner to go to that Christmas party?
I heard Rob Reiner say I kept him there to keep an eye on him. If you're having to keep an eye on a drug addict, you're in big trouble already. That's already, whenever there's somebody watching or leashing or whatever, it's not good.
All the signs were there, says forensic psychologist Dr. Leslie Dobson. In recent months, it was clear Nick, once clean cut and well dressed, had stopped taking care of himself.
He's more disheveled. He's distant. His eye.
He gained 62 pounds. It doesn't look like it in these pictures, but he did. What medication would make him gain that much weight?
Some of the antipsychotic medications, especially the older ones.
And I want to tell everyone to please give some internet hugs to Boogies. She's talking the talk. Okay. Steven said, Brooks, he has a mental disease. So should he get out of jail and walk around with his mental disease and kill more people? Or should he go to jail? Because we know 18 times in rehab didn't help. What is your answer to that, Steven? 18 times in rehab. Do $70,000 times 18. And actually, it's a lot more than that. I'm just using simple numbers. So should he get out of jail and be allowed to continue what he does?
No. I mean, what Dr. Drew is saying is exactly right. He was a danger to himself or others. They saw an escalation in his erratic behavior, which I don't even know what they're talking about. I wish they would. I mean, he trashed that guest house. I don't know how many times.
And Billy Crystals. He's trashed 2 of them.
No, that's all I would have needed. Just set his butt out, you know. He did it more than once. Things were just a little too comfortable for Nick.
Way too comfortable.
Had stopped taking care of himself.
He's more disheveled. He's distant. His eyes aren't focused. He's not really caring about how he looks. He just doesn't seem like he's a part of the family.
She says having a hugely successful father may have caused resentment.
I can't live up to him, and I need to. And then this revenge and this vengeance grows inside. It turns to anger.
Rob Reiner had said, hey, I know my son better than anybody else.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a scary statement that parents make. And I understand why he would say that. But what you have to understand, if you have a loved one or you're a parent of a child, that every wonderful parenting instinct you have will get used by the disease of addiction, which is why you must never attempt to do this alone.
He didn't want help, and they wanted help for him. They didn't accept the help that they handsomely paid for. That's what it comes down to. They are dead because of Nick. They are dead because of Nick.
Exactly. And again, if somebody is a danger, my dog is spoiled. I promise y'all he's fine. If somebody is a danger to themselves or others, that's what bothers me the most. I'm sorry, I'm hung up on them. If a doctor was prescribing med, you don't stabilize somebody on an outpatient basis unless you have, that's why they go inpatient. They have to have 24/7 observation. They have to be checked. I mean, I don't know. It's just a really sad situation.
Oh, it's a horrible situation. And, at the end of the day, Rob and Michelle are dead. I believe what Dr. Drew said. Had other people been there, they would have been dead too, because he was manic, he was hectic, and he was homicidal.
Exactly. And I'm aggravated that somebody was given. I mean, I hate to keep saying that, but I'm just very aggravated that a professional, licensed physician would think it's a good idea to do this on an outpatient basis. That is not okay.
Well, I mean, Michael Jackson had a private doctor. Matthew Perry
Right.
had a private doctor. I mean, hell, he was, sipping on the ketamine when he was in the hot tub. Prince had a
Exactly.
private doctor. This is not our world. You know what I'm saying? If
Right.
we go in, we get our blood pressure taken, we get on the scale, we do the whole 9 yards. We sit there in the room on a table with paper, and you sit there, they look in our ears and everything. 15 minutes later, you get your meds refilled. Okay. They don't come to your house and go, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to do this. Now, I'm going to trust you that you're going to watch this person with this prescription. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
It's very dangerous. Okay. Now think about what happened with Marlon Brando's family. Same thing. There is a reason that people actually go into a doctor's office and sit there. Some people say, I got white coat syndrome. Shut up. You'll get over it.
Exactly. You're
This is not-
exactly right about that.
It's not Little House on the Prairie when people show up with a stethoscope and some damn snake oil. We don't do that shit now.
And even if he did have somebody else administering his meds or giving him his meds, I mean, people cheek their meds. They don't always swallow them. I mean, come on. That's why you need to be on an inpatient, but secured environment.
Well, and how many pills are left are going to be a big part of the evidence.
Sure.
Because there is such a thing. I don't care if you're a doctor that just does favors off the cuff and shows up and goes, okay, well, I saw him physically, I'm going to write this. There is such a thing called a pill count with these medications.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
When people run out of their medications, there's a problem. They're abusing them, or if they have too many, they're flat out not taking them. And that's going to be a big part of the evidentiary session of this case.
Absolutely.
Well, y'all, I absolutely love this conversation. And how many of you have opened up and boogies? I'm very proud of you. Can I say that? I'm very proud of you. Nana Rocks, I'm very proud of you. The way you're taking care of your son.
Mm-hmm.
Very proud of you. You know, you keep on keeping on. Hell, it's Christmas week. Today is Festivus.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow we have a huge members live.
Yes, we do.
And I just want to thank each and every one of you. Hopefully you can come to the members live. If you can't, well, maybe I'll figure out a way that you can watch it somehow. But this is Merry Christmas Eve. And I really hope everyone enjoys, gets the wrapping done, plans their meal. And, this stuff on YouTube, let's put it in the rearview mirror because these are not our lives. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Love you very much, Angel P. Thank you, Mod Squad. And Peggy, I still want you to take the link because I still want to know how Rob Reiner faked his death. Okay? I still want to know. I am dying to know how you and Johnny think he faked his death. And before we go, look at that. Pat K making it rain. All right, I've got a lot of stuff to do this afternoon, so there will not be a second show, even though I would love to, because I hear that Ashley Buzzard was finally arrested. She should have been arrested within 48 hours of Melody Buzzard not being found, but hey, I don't write the rules in California. That's how it goes. But we'll be back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. for a Members Live, and we have some special guests that are coming up. They're going to sing. We got a Celtic prayer coming in. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We have some prizes, and I don't mean just dildos for Pat and Susan to share. We got some prizes. So you all enjoy the rest of your day. You get everything you need to get done. Done, done, done. And I'll see you tomorrow. Love you all.
Bye.